In today's video, we're going to check out the brand new Aerofit and the Aerofit Pro from Soundcore. Both are offering us an open-ear, true wireless earbud solution with some of the unique features of getting up to 14 hours on one of the options that we have in here, the ability of having LDAC support, and of course, not only that, but also having spatial audio. All in a very nice, inclusive package, as well as the ability of actually using a band to allow it to actually fit much nicer and have a much more snug fit. Open ear solutions from Soundcore are not going to disappoint. Let's check them out and see what makes them so unique. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so they're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So here we have both of the boxes. Again, there is the standard edition. This is the Aerofit and the Aerofit Pro. Both are made by Soundcore by Anker. This is the actual brand itself. The big difference between the two, I'm going to start right off by saying, is there is a performance difference as well as there's a battery life experience. And this is what I was talking about, up to 14 hours. We have up to 14 hours of single use, up to 46 with the case, 11 hours, which is still crazy if you think about it, and up to 42 hours with the case. IPX7 and IPX5 is going to be one of the main differences here, as well as the fact that the size is a little bit different. They're slightly smaller here with the drivers that we have in there. And we also have the ability of having a button configuration on the Pro side where we only have touch configuration. So this is a touch sensitive area there where you're able to initiate the functions on there. Both are supporting and housing the batteries on the back of the actual ear. And that's one of the orientation that they're giving us there. But the Pro side does come with basically a support band that you're able to put on the back of your head to allow you to actually have much more of a secure fit. So here we have it. This is the case for the Pros, and this is the one for the standard one. This is again the Aerofit. So the biggest thing you'll notice between the two obviously is not only the size, but also the configuration of how they're housed in here. They're both set up in a way where it's configured. There's no way for you to mess up, know exactly which one is the right one and which one is the left one. And it's the same way in here. You have a red indicator on that side, and we have a red indicator on the top, as well as a red indicator on the bottom, letting us know that this is the left or the right ear here, as far as the left one on the left. There's a button option here to be able to open up the case on the Pro with a little bit of an LED in here. On the right side, on the standard one, the LEDs are based on the bottom, basically allowing us to know it's 100% for the full charge, about 75, or basically I would say 33 at each time it drops. USB-C configuration on the back to be able to charge. No wireless charging, but we have that reset button or pair button sitting right next to it on the standard model. And the same thing that we have in here on the top. It's pretty much a standard configuration, except on the Pro side, because we have a button to open it up, this is going to be also our pairing button. Pressing and holding this as you're opening it up will configure it. You notice there's a little bit of an LED light indicators there to allow us to know that the actual buds are being charged from the case. Again, up to 14 hours per single charge, 46 hours, and here up to 42 hours with a single charge. That band that I was referring to you guys in the initially at the beginning, these are obviously the ones that configure. There is a small color indicator to let you know exactly which one fits for which. Let's get this one in configuration here. And one of the nice things about them is they're pretty much just there for positioning. These are not going to there's no conduction between the two. There's no power going through. And you basically adjust this to the back of your neck to get it to fit the exact way that you want it, depending on your size. And for the most part, this allows them to be a little bit more snug or have a better fit on the Pro side than we get with the standard model. So here we have both. The Pro side obviously is on the left and the standard side is on the right side. The configuration that we get between the two is very similar. The design definitely feels very similar, except for the fact that we have a button configuration here for control. And here it's pretty much a touch sensitivity on the entire outside where basically the Soundcore logo is showing. The battery is going to be housed directly in this big container. That's pretty much how it's going to be charged. Although when it's configured or connected to into the actual case, it charges through these little two connectors right next to the indicator. You can see here, this is the 14mm driver that we have here on each ear. And of course, it's slightly different, smaller than the 16.2mm driver that we have in here. Let this thing focus, and you can see the difference in, of course, the two different configuration. Both are going to give you great sound, although I feel like the Pro definitely has a little bit more of I will probably say more of a punch to it, because the drivers are a little bit bigger. The other thing that we'll see here is that little indicator, the red indicator here, because that's how we're able to actually marry it to the actual setup in here. So the way you would configure it, you actually will have to put it directly into the ear. So let's go ahead and set it up. And once you have that in, they just connect and it becomes part of the unit itself. Unfortunately, this one does not have that, and they're not intended to have those configurations. When you're not using it, if you don't want to use it, of course, you could just remove it, and they can both be used in pretty much the same experience. And when you're done, you pretty much put them back in their case and let them charge. Let's go ahead and put this one here. Bam. And of course, we'll do the same thing on the big guy. The one thing to keep in mind is just to remember where to put the actual battery configuration. These are in the center and these are more curved down to the bottom. The cases are a little bit bigger than what you're used to seeing without having any wireless charging. That's one thing to keep in mind. Although I feel like this one will fit in your side pocket, the little pocket in your jeans on the right side, much easier. This one pretty much just fits in your pocket. It definitely is a little bit bigger than your standard configuration, but they look really nice. Now, as far as the information, we got the right and left ears battery level, as well as the case. You're able to do the sound effects. By default, it's set to be on the default section. That's going to be the default music EQ, but you're able to go in there and customize your own personal EQ and save it, or even use the 3D surround sound. Now, this one is intended more for music and for film, or at least basically gaming and for film, not music. The overall experience that we get in here as well, when we do the settings section, you can go into that little gear at the top right. You can configure the balance between both the right and left side of the audio, so that's one nice thing option. We do have dual connection configuration. You do need to turn that on, and then you'll be able to connect it to two devices at the same time. By default, it does not have that on. You do need to turn that on. And of course, this is a little bit different when it comes to the dual connection on the Pro side, and we'll touch base on that. Prompt tones, auto power off by after 30 minutes. You can configure that. Find My Device. You can basically allow the speakers or the sound from the actual earpiece to play so you can find them. Updating firmware, pretty much straightforward. The standard model did not receive any updates, although the Pro model for me, it received 2 updates since I've had them. Last but not least, of course, we have the serial number, and that's the configuration on the standard Aerofit. Let's switch over to the Aerofit Pro. Now, although the setup looks very similar, you'll notice one big difference is now we actually have LDAC support. LDAC support is available on the Pro side, and that was one of the first updates that I had to put in there. When I first received them, to turn on LDAC, it required a special update for that. As far as controls, pretty much the same as we've had them on the other one. It's pretty much you go in there, a single tap volume down on the left, and double tap takes you directly to press the next song. You're able to change it, and this is the preset that we have in here. On the right side is pretty much single tap for volume up, and then double tap for play and pause. Very much a straightforward experience, except these are buttons as opposed to touch configuration that we have on the standard model. When we go into the Pro side, as far as the settings side, sound mode, pretty much the same. You can configure both the experience here as far as getting LDAC or combining the two for basically better audio connection, but this also will allow it to support dual connectivity. Dual connectivity on here, when we jump into the next section here, under dual connections, this is only available if you turn off LDAC. If you're using LDAC as a codec, which enables you to get better audio, unfortunately it becomes a single device or a single driver type of a situation, so only one device at a time. Let's go ahead and go back. And if we want to be able to use dual, you just need to drop it down, and it's not going to basically compromise the experience a lot, but again, it depends on what you're trying to do. And of course, volume balance, you can configure that the same way. Auto power off 30 minutes, Find My Device, or Find Devices, of course. Now, firmware, as you notice here, it is 2.38, and of course, the serial number. And last but not least, one of the other things, of course, as far as audio configuration here, is we have spatial audio on the Pro side, where we have more of a 3D sound on the standard model. Now that we've seen all the configurations we can do from the app, and of course from the buds themselves, let's go outside and do a quick audio sample from the microphones on the Aerofit Pros, just to show you guys how the experience is going to be. And the nice thing about it is both the Aerofit and the Aerofit Pros have the same amount of microphones, so the audio experience should be pretty much identical there. We went outside and we're doing a quick audio test. I'm using the Pro version, but it should be pretty much the same experience. The biggest, obviously, the benefit here is these are open ears, meaning I can actually still hear everything that's going around me. And the audio is being directly into my ear, making it so that not everybody around me can hear the music. A little bit of, things flying around, but overall, hopefully this is actually pretty decent as far as what you should be able to get as far as phone calls, video calls, and of course, audio recording using the brand new earbuds. So they're very small, and this is going to be one of those things you have to kind of get used to using them. They're different than most other earbuds because A, they're not over the ear, they're not on ear, they're not in ear, they're actually kind of behind the ear. I'll probably say this is like very much the same with everything else. Just make sure you put the battery itself all the way behind your ear the way it sits, and this is going to be where you need to get used to it. It actually sits facing your ear right above it, but doesn't block the ear. This is, again, one of the best, well, I would probably say it's like one of the best situations that you're able to do. Put it in, push it back to the back, make sure that it goes to the back of the ear, and set it up. And once you have that set up like this is pretty much all you have to do. If you want to have a little bit more secure fit, you could definitely put the band itself, which allows them to actually fit a little bit nicer. So again, you just remove it, position it on, so it fits one side, get the other one. And at this point, it becomes kind of like almost like a neck band, but essentially all it's doing is just allowing it to actually set much easier. You put it behind your ear, you extend, and then you pull the two little levers in the back of it. And for the lack of a better term, other than just showing you guys, it actually fits very nicely. And of course, adjusted ever so nicely to make that fit be as snug as you'd like. That's one of the big differences between the standard and the pro side, is the ability of using the band, because you can't really use it with the other one. Now, when it comes down to configuration and using them, pretty straightforward. Again, double pressing on the button here is what it allows us to do the out-of-the-box configuration. You can change it to the way you want. I like the fact that I'm able to raise and reduce the volume on it. I'm also appreciative of the fact that playing pause is on the right and next track is on the left. I rarely ever decide to go back, and if I do, obviously I can just turn on the phone and of course change it back. But the biggest thing here that you need to adjust to, or at least be aware of, is that this is an open ear solution. Meaning, I'm actually in the moment. I'm still able to talk to somebody without ever missing a beat. I don't have to take out my earbuds. I don't have to put anything away. And if I want to listen to music, it actually works very nicely. And what I found with this, even though it sounds like the buds are in my ear most of the time, at least with the Pro ones, because I've been using these the most, and they sound really good. The bass is definitely pronounced. It feels punchy. It doesn't feel like my ear is entirely sealed as I'm listening to it, which took a little bit of adjustment. But once you get over that part, I think it sounds pretty decent. At about 50% volume, maybe 55% volume, you're not going to have any problem or interrupting other people around you. I gave this to my son and I had to play it at about 45 to 50%, and he was walking around and I could not hear the song that he was listening to. And that was surprising because I've had other solutions where the sound leakage is much higher. Of course, if you go to a much higher volume, I don't recommend you putting it to that level, but if you do, obviously then you need to be a little bit more aware of the sound leakage, and other people may be listening, or at least may hear some, I think, like subtle hisses of at least the sound that you're listening to. So just be aware of that, and of course, make sure that you're listening to the correct level. Don't damage your ears. Overall, the Pros definitely do sound better. They have bigger drivers, and I think from the range standpoint, of course, as I usually do, I love the ability of leaving my phone here and walking around the house, and I don't have any problems with that. So the Bluetooth connectivity 5.3 is definitely not going to disappoint. The music quality you're getting here is, again, very nice for exercise. The IPX7 and IPX5 that we're getting here allows us to actually have some ingress protection for sweat. So if you're exercising, you're doing things, you're not going to have to worry about it. It is coated and they are treated with the material so that they don't just, fall apart if any kind of condensation hits them. Obviously, they're intended to be worked out with. They wouldn't look like this if they weren't. So at the end of the day, I'll probably say this. Initially, when I first got these buds from Soundcore, I was a little bit confused as to how they would be able to fit my exercise routine. And what I mean by this, I'm used to in-ear and over-the-ear experiences, and those are the ones that have always served me well. Actually, my preferred method is to have the in-ear solution because it gives me that best sound isolation and, of course, best ANC. Here, we don't have ANC, but we do have spatial audio on the Pros, and we have 3D sound on the standard model. We have an extended battery life, obviously for gaming and listening to music and content consumption, and even for phone calls and videos, they actually sound pretty good. I've had quite a few calls, actually conference calls, where people have actually complimented that the audio sounded very clear. I hope that that translated well in the video that I showed you guys. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for an open ear solution type of an audio, this is definitely going to fit. My best thing will say, obviously no pun intended, is get the Pro version because of the better fit. Between the two, I felt like the Pro was a lot more snug and it felt like it would definitely stay without having any problems. The standard edition could work for you, it just depending on how your experience is going to be. For me, once I started to sweat a little bit, it started to slip a little bit and I felt like it wasn't as secure. It didn't fall, but it just wasn't as secure. So with that being said, I hope that you found one of these two earbuds to be one of your solutions for open ear audio. Of course, with LDAC that you get there with the Pro. There's so many more things, obviously, in the Pro side. I really appreciate that they really kept the Pro in more of a category of its own. And of course, if you're looking to just get something a little bit more kind of like a general use open ear, I feel like the Aerofit will definitely be a good fit. No pun intended. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. And of course, I'll see you in the next video.